Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll discuss the 2018 beef export numbers and examine the possibilities for the year ahead. And we'll take you inside the CattleFax Outlook Seminar and hear what the experts think for 2019.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. 2018 was an outstanding year for beef exports, with record highs set for both quantity and value. There's no question that these global markets play a vital role in the long-term success of the U.S. beef industry. We asked cattlemen and women why it's important to continue to create international demand for U.S. beef.
What are my thoughts on beef trade? We'll open it up. Open it up. Open everywhere we can. We need to open up that beef trade. It's really going to help those of us in the United States.
The trade is a new frontier. It's up 17%. And where would we be without that? And especially on in our competing proteins, if they would get that 60% tariff off of pork and poultry and get that product out of here, it's hard telling where we would be on demand locally and then overseas also. I just think it still has room to grow.
We've been fortunate. I think some of the things that NCBA has done with trade and with the trade agreements, and it's important. It's the only way we're going to actually get the best dollar for our beef if we actually do some more exporting. And we've had some good successes in that. We've just got to be conscientious. There's some agreements out there that we're not a part of right now that could impact us, and we've got to watch those.
I think without the export trade, is that what you're talking about, the export? It would definitely hurt us. There'd be a bunch of us out of business.
Probably somewhere 10, 12, 15% of our product has got to go offshore to maintain the viability of our industry, and being able to maintain that trade, get more trade opened up is going to be critical for the industry.
Beef trade's exciting. I think we're going in the right direction. We're opening up China and Japan and the Asian market, as well as some others going forward. So it sounds like we're going in the right way, and hopefully we can keep our relations with Canada and Mexico good, and just keep on going.
And joining us now to talk about beef exports is Dan Hallstrom, President and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Earlier, we talked about the incredibly robust export market we've had in 2018. What's led to some of these record-breaking numbers?
Yeah, we're looking at setting a new record again this in 2018. We're going to be all of $8.5 billion for global beef exports, and I think the key is it's really an amalgamation of many of the key markets, of course led by Japan, but Korea, if you had to pick out one, Korea with growth of over 45% has really been a home run this year. And one of the contributing factors there is that we have gotten 100% of Costco Korea's business into U.S. beef, whereas we were sharing it prior with Australia. So this has been a big factor. But you look at some of the other markets, key markets, even Mexico and Canada continue to pull their weight. And you have Central America, South America. These regions are emerging, but they're not so new. They've been growing for the last 4 or 5 years. So to answer your question, it's really increased demand, increased beef per capita consumption in a lot of these countries, and we're positioning it well for our industry. Which is great news for the industry. So let's talk 2019. What's ahead, and do you think we can anticipate continued growth? Well, I do. I think we're set up well for increased growth in a lot of the key markets. That being said, we do have some headwinds. One is Japan, our largest value market. It's roughly $82, $83 a head. Attributable of our $320 a head is Japan, by far number one. But we are behind the 8 ball there with some of our key competitors because they're in the CPTPP now. Right. And they currently have a 12% duty advantage, and that number gets bigger over the course of time. So the industry is aligned. We've made our concern aware, very aware to USDA and USTR that we have to get some sort of an agreement with Japan sooner rather than later. But issues like that aside, the dynamics are set up well for a good 2019. Okay, let's talk about China. Clearly it's in the news every day, and my question to you is, why is it so important to beef producers that we finally resolve this issue with China? Well, I think, the agreement that we have right now is good in the fact that we do have access, albeit limited access. We do have restrictions regarding hormone-treated cattle, regarding beta agonists, and some other items as well. So I think trying to get this in a more open, a more science-based agreement would be good for all producers, because we can make the current agreement work, but the payback's going to be much smaller share. And if we can get a science-based agreement that the industry can get behind in total, then that's just that much more opportunity. And I'll tell you, the U.S. beef that's gotten into China, what we're hearing with our team, acceptance is great. They love the grain-fed. They don't have a grain-fed alternative, high-end grain-fed alternative like U.S. beef. So the issue is not the quality. The issue is getting an agreement that's sustainable long-term.
So oftentimes we talk about markets like Japan and Korea and even China, but you've said before when you've been on this show, let's not forget some of the other markets that really comprise a lot of opportunity for the beef industry. What are some of those markets?
Exactly, yeah. I think a good example is Central and South America. Those two regions have really come up from a very low base in the last 3 or 4 years. And I'll give you some examples. Peru, very big market for beef variety meats. A lot of tripe goes to Peru from the U.S. You look at markets like El Salvador, Guatemala, Panama. By themselves, any one market's not all that big, but you add up the region, Central and South America now is your 5th or 6th largest region for U.S. beef exports globally. So it's really come on, and I think that has potential to grow even further. But then you can kind of fast forward to some brand new markets, and Africa being one of those. You got 1 billion people on a continent with the youngest demographic in the world, and you're starting to see evidence of the middle class starting to finally emerge. And for example, Angola, South Africa, Ghana, we're seeing beef variety meats go in there. We're also seeing some very small quantities of chilled beef going in for food service, for high-end restaurants. And this is how business starts in these markets. It's small, but it's promising for the future.
Well, with exports driving over $300 or $320 of value, it continues to be a significant part of the profit equation for all of us in the U.S. beef industry. So I appreciate everything that you and your team do. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
To learn more about the work of the U.S. Meat Export Federation and its efforts to enhance U.S. beef demand, visit their website at usmef.org. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, you'll hear what the experts from CattleFax are expecting for the beef industry in the year ahead. Plus, one NCBA officer tells us why he thinks it's important to volunteer his time to serve in leadership roles. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When it comes to the beef business, there's no room for gray area. The decisions being made in Washington affect the future of the beef industry, the livelihood of your fellow farmers and ranchers. Your National Cattlemen's Beef Association knows there's what benefits cattlemen and there's what doesn't. To us, it's as clear as black and white. Visit joinncba.org to learn more.
One of the best attended events at the Cattle Industry Convention is always the CattleFax Outlook Seminar. It's a chance to hear what the experts think about the key factors driving the markets and what we can expect for the year ahead. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Russell Nemitz joins us with a recap of this can't-miss event.
Well, during this year's CattleFax Annual Industry Outlook here at the Cattle Industry's annual convention, attendees heard that large protein supplies and some trade uncertainty could in fact put some price pressure on the different classes of cattle here in 2019. That's the near term. But what about the long-term outlook for the beef cattle industry? With us on the segment today to go into that just a little bit more is CattleFax's Chief Executive Officer, Randy Block. And let's just talk about that. Where is this industry headed long-term?
Well, I think you got to feel pretty good where we are, Russell. You know, the industry's gone through a pretty good run. We've increased these numbers significantly in here over the last 3 or 4 years, and yet these prices have really done a nice job of stabilizing. Producers are profitable. Most segments of the industry are profitable in here, and that's really the final test right there is profitability. And what drives profitability? Demand. We've had great domestic demand. Our export demand's been good. So I think you got to feel good longer term, even though we're likely going to see a little bit of price erosion going into the early part of the next decade.
Well, you touched on it lots during your presentation about that beef demand out there from consumers. One thing you also noted is these producers that weren't just here in this room but across this great country of ours are in fact producing higher quality beef. You said they are listening to today's consumer.
Oh, we've done so much better job in here over the last 15, 20 years. We've heard what the consumers want. They want high quality, great tasting, nutritious beef that tastes good. And our producers have done a wonderful job. We've seen a 25% increase in choice and prime grading, a 50% increase in the supply of prime and choice product. And again, the price spreads have still been able to maintain about a $10 choice select spread during the course of the year, regardless of that increase in supply. That's strong demand.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, even though the message was also that the pipeline is very full, we do have some larger supplies of protein because we're doing a better job of listening to that consumer. It's helping to create more value for that beef we're raising back at home.
Well, it really is. If you go back and you just think about this, I think sometimes we make this stuff just too complicated. Export markets added $8.5 billion of value to the U.S. beef industry in 2018. What does $8.5 billion mean? It means every calf we produce on our ranches is worth $360 a head more than they would if we weren't trading. So let's put that in perspective. Calf prices are going to average about $1.65 in 2019. Without exports, they'd average about $1. So this is a big deal. I mean, this is where a lot of our revenue is driven and driven back through to our industry segments. And again, these are markets that we have to pay attention to. We have to hear what the consumers in these other parts of the world want from the U.S. producers.
What about those younger generations out there, Gen X, those millennials? What type of impact or effect are they going to have on beef demand, and how does the industry need to respond to those?
Well, I think we need to respond. We need to respond. That's the first thing. We need to hear what they're saying. They want different things. Things are more important to them maybe than they were the baby boomers. It may be source verified product, traceable product, humanely raised, all of these different attributes that we can stand behind as producers. All of those things I think have increasing value to the new consumers coming along. And so I think it's an opportunity and a responsibility to listen to those consumers.
Hey, you wrapped up your presentation basically talking about wild cards out there for the U.S. beef cattle industry. What are some of them? I did see fake meat on there.
Well, I think we're going to see fake meat continue to make some inroads. It's getting cheaper and cheaper to produce. There is a segment of our population that will likely navigate that way. Am I worried that we're going to lose a significant market share? No. But I do believe we will see that market grow as we look down the road.
Well, as always, we appreciate you being with us today and giving us some of that market insight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I wish the very best to all your producers out there. Hope they have a wonderful year. Again, when we count our blessings, we've really been through tremendous growth in protein supplies the last 3 years, and yet these markets have held together very, very well. So I'm optimistic that we're going to have another solid year in 2019 and again in 2020. A little bit of price erosion, but not a train wreck any stretch of the imagination. So.
All right, well said. Again, we've been visiting with Randy Block, CattleFax's Chief Executive Officer. With that, we'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Thanks, Russell. For more than 50 years, CattleFax has been providing producers with the tools they need to make more profitable decisions. If you're looking for top-notch beef industry research, information, and analysis, then visit the website CattleFax.com. Being a leader in the nation's oldest and largest cattle industry organization takes dedication, as Florida producer Marty Smith has proven over the years. He has served in multiple roles, including the 2018 Vice President of NCBA. He's here now to share some insights on what it's like to be a volunteer leader. Marty, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, you have a great background in leadership, and I want to talk about you and your family's background in just a moment. But before we do, could you share just a little bit about your operation, your background in the cattle business?
Well, like most people in Florida, we're cow-calf ranchers. My family's been involved in the cow-calf business there since about 1850, and so we are proud of that, and my job is to make sure it lasts for a few more years, another generation.
And your family has a strong history of leadership. Of course, your mother being the first female to ever serve as president of this organization. Why is it so important to the Smith family to be volunteer leaders and to commit your time to organizations like this?
Well, this industry, the cattle business, has been great to us, great to my family, and we feel like we owe something back to it. We want to make sure it's there for future generations, though, Kevin, and that's our big point with all of this, is to make sure that what we have enjoyed all these years can continue into the future.
Pay it forward. That's fantastic. And we just completed a fantastic convention here in New Orleans. Could you give us some of the highlights of this past week?
Well, we've had a great crowd here in New Orleans. We've had a great convention. With this, we've had a lot of input from members from all over the country, from all segments of the industry. And that's what's so important for us all to come together to work towards some common goals.
And so you talked to a lot of producers, obviously, and got input, as you mentioned. What do you think are going to be the top priority issues for cattle producers for 2019 and beyond?
Well, continuing into 2019, I think that trade remains a major focus for us. We see so much opportunity. At the same time, we see so many challenges, political and otherwise, in terms of getting the great product that we've got out throughout the world. So we think trade is a crucial issue. Mm-hmm. We continue to work very hard on government rollback to try to eliminate some of the regulatory programs that impact our industry. Fake meat remains a big issue for us, something that we'll be working on going forward. And we'll also be working on how better to meet that demand. We've got a great demand for beef building in this country, and we're working hard to be able to meet that.
That's great. So what message would you give to viewers and others who may not be members of NCBA about the value of being a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association?
First and foremost, we are the voice of the cattle industry and to a large degree agriculture in Washington, D.C. When you talk about dealing with all of the regulatory agencies, with EPA, with USDA, Department of Interior, whichever agency it is, we're there on the front line. We're on the front line with Congress and with the administration to work towards betterment and sometimes just pure protection. Mm-hmm. And no other organization out there fills that role anything like NCBA does. In addition, the promotional work that we do in terms of developing and building our product and building demand for our product, what we do trade-wise, both in terms of building demand and in breaking down some of the legal and governmental barriers to that, are just crucial to our industry. Absolutely. And we've got the opportunity to make this thing a whole lot better for all of us.
That's good to hear. Thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you.
You bet. The cattle industry needs a strong voice in our nation's capital, and that takes all of us working together. Stand with Marty and other members of NCBA by joining today. It's easy to sign up. Just call 1-866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll take you inside this year's Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Don't go away. We'll have more right after this.
Looking for an advantage in your cattle business? Then join the wave of commercial cattlemen who are seeing the value of Hereford genetics.
Breed back is just absolutely phenomenal. I'd say probably 80% of our keeping heifers were baldy this year, and just can't say enough good things about them.
Since we started using Hereford bulls again, I've for sure probably seen 15 to 20 pounds on our weaning weight.
I think our Hereford baldy heifers, they'll be a little more fertile, have a little more longevity.
Hereford bulls and females maximize the value of your herd, improving fertility, feed efficiency, docility, and more.
Hereford really has a big impact over other breeds when it comes to that heterosis and hybrid vigor. It's really humbling to visit with these cow-calf producers and see these 100-year commercial ranches coming back to Hereford. They've seen the differences, they've seen the genetic progress, they've seen the difference in the cattle.
The science shows Hereford genetics pay. Don't miss out on the Hereford advantage. Discover the bald-faced truth about Hereford genetics at the website herefordtruth.org.
Earlier this month, and for the first time ever, the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame induction ceremony was held in conjunction with a cattle industry convention and NCBA trade show. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Kate Maher has more from this excellent event.
Thanks, Kevin. We're here tonight at the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame, which is quite an honor to be at. It recognizes the best and the brightest of the cattle feeding industry and those that have given their careers and dedicated their lives to the cattle feeding industry. We're here tonight with one of the 2019 inductees to the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame, James Herring from Dallas, Texas, Freonia Industries. Mr. Herring, thank you for being with us, and what an honor it is to talk to you.
Thank you, Kate. It's really an honor and a great pleasure to be here tonight. These are people that have grown our industry and have innovated our industry and have built our industry over the years, and it's a great pleasure for me to be included in that list.
Absolutely, it is a great list. You've spent your life in the business of feeding cattle. It takes a special person to do that. What are some of the lessons you've learned over the years in being involved in this industry?
Well, I've learned that there is risk in cattle feeding. You have to be aware of that. You have to be situationally aware. Your antenna has to be up 24/7. You have to have some deep pockets sometimes. But the thing I loved about the business is every morning I woke up, there was an opportunity to hit it over the fence. So it created an atmosphere of not only urgency, but opportunity with every decision that you made. And that really brought relevance to the whole thing. So that's what I found really challenging and great about the business.
You talk about opportunities. What do you think are opportunities that lie ahead for this industry?
Oh boy, I'm glad you asked that question. We spent a lifetime trying to vertically align the system to deliver a more quality product, a better product, more consistent product to the end consumer. So that's where I think the opportunity is. Today, Freona's head count delivers about 5% of the industry's fed beef every year. And so there's 95% that are still commodity business and not aligned and not delivering the consistent product that we need to compete with poultry and swine. So that's the opportunity.
There's a lot of protein out there competing, and you talk about vertical integration. What's your message to your supply chain, to the people that you're buying cattle from? What's your message?
Well, what we did at Freona is create a virtually vertically aligned system that allowed everybody from the stocker operator all the way to the retailer to be involved in the production system to get the benefit of a delivered product, branded product that was different. And so when you do that, you create opportunities for those suppliers to create a supply chain that's 24/7, that gives value for their product and gives value eventually to the end consumer, which is the big key. And once we found that actually worked in a series of retail establishments across the country, we went from 4,000 cattle a month to 1.3 million cattle a year. So I think that's the way to go. I think that's the business of the future, and I think everybody should have their efforts directed in that way.
Great points, and you're right, the consumer should drive everything that we all do in the beef industry. A lot of industry expertise here in the room tonight, some past honorees and your fellow honorees. Talk about what it means to be included in this group of cattle feeders.
Well, this is the 10th year, so this will make 20. And these are the people that began the industry, that built the industry, that innovated the industry, and created a multi-billion-dollar business out of really virtually nothing. We moved the business from the Midwest to other areas of the country and created these large integrated companies that have relevance and critical mass and that can compete every single day. And these are the guys that did that, and I'm thrilled to be included in that list. That's like winning the Super Bowl.
It is the Super Bowl of the cattle business and the cattle feeding business, isn't it? Mr. Herring, thank you for your time. Thank you for your contribution to this great industry of ours. We really appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you, Kate, so much for the interview. Appreciate the time.
With that, Kevin, we'll send it back to you.
You can find out more about the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame and their effort to gather stories and images to help preserve the history of U.S. cattle feeding by visiting the website CattleFeeders.org. NCBA is a grassroots organization led by producers who volunteer their time and effort to ensure the beef business remains strong and sustainable. Here to share some insight on what it's like to be a volunteer leader is Jerry Bone. Jerry, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family's operation.
I'm involved with Pratt Feeders, a commercial cattle feeding operation in Pratt, Kansas. That's our headquarters. We also have a 15,000 facility in Ashland, Kansas, and another one in Buffalo, Oklahoma. And we have a fairly large irrigated farming operation also there in south central Kansas.
Fantastic. And you have been chair of the policy division, is that right?
Yes, was vice chair last year and chair of the policy division this year.
And so tell folks a little bit about how policy is formed within NCBA.
NCBA's got a really robust policy development process. It starts at the local level where our state affiliates and county organizations promote and develop policy that they then bring to the state. The state then develops resolutions that they bring to the national convention, and we then vet those resolutions, and they go before each committee that deal with that specific topic, and then it goes to our board of directors, and then after it's approved by the board, in the fall, we send out a mail-in ballot where members in the country are able to say yes or no to all of the policy, and once it's approved by the membership, then it becomes policy that our staff goes forward with to develop and promote and work on.
Really is a grassroots-based policy-making process.
Very much. It's not top-down driven at all. It starts at the local level.
Yeah. And so can you tell us what some of the policy priorities are for 2019?
We've got 4 things that we're going to work on here in 2019 specifically. One involves trade, and we hope that we can get a free trade agreement negotiated with Japan. We would also like to see free and open trade with non-tariff barriers done away with in China. We're working with the EU also. They're wanting right now to not allow agriculture to be part of the trade negotiations, so we're going to have to continue to fight on that. Fake meat is a big deal. Who's going to regulate it, how it's going to be labeled, that's yet to be determined. We believe that USDA is the government organization that is best suited to regulate that, and as long as the playing field is kept level and that they don't disparage our product, we're going to be monitoring that. Regulations, rollback of regulations such as Waters of the U.S. is something that we're going to continue to work on. There's a new proposal there right now. Hours of service and electronic logging devices for trucks continues to be a challenge, and we haven't got a long-term fix for that yet. And then I think finally 2020 we're going to have dietary guidelines come up forward again, and so NCBA is actively involved in trying to get some industry people involved in that will be on that board that will determine what those guidelines look like going forward, and hopefully that will include beef, and that we'll continue to have beef as a center plate protein for the future.
I couldn't agree more. Some very big strategic issues for you all to tackle this next year. And so as you tackle those issues, why is it so important that we have such a strong membership base? Why is it important that you are representing a number of people within the cattle industry?
Well, first of all, the number of people that we represent counts when we go to Washington. Our staff then can say that we represent 25,000 or more people across the country. And 2, then that helps us financially support a very strong team in Washington, D.C. so that we can play offense, and in the environment that we're going into here in the next couple of years, probably again it'll be a little more on the defensive side, protecting us from over-regulation.
You bet. Thank you so much for coming to the show. We'll look forward to having you back again.
All right, good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you, Jerry. If you'd like to stay up to date on key issues and events from D.C., one way is by becoming a member of NCBA. Members receive the Beltway Beef newsletter, a weekly report straight from Washington that gives an up-to-date summary of top policy initiatives that'll impact your business. Joining is easy. Just call 1-866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll have an update on the waters of the U.S. Could we finally see an end to this troublesome rule? Plus, we'll introduce you to the new head of the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Stay with us.
What does it mean to be an American cattleman? It means you have what it takes where it counts, on the inside. At Ritchie, we understand that. It's what's on the inside that defines us. We share the same values: ingenuity, commitment, sense of pride. These are the values that built this country. They're the values that built this company. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
Welcome back. Federal rules and regulations can often have a major impact on the day-to-day work on your operation. Here to talk more about this important topic is Scott Yeager, NCBA's Chief Environmental Counsel. Scott, thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
We've got to begin with the topic we've talked a lot about with you before, and that's waters of the United States. Is it finally dead?
WOTUS is not dead, all right? It's getting there, okay, and we're working our way towards killing it, but it has to go through this federal administrative process. So in December, Acting Administrator Andrew Wheeler of the EPA announced a replacement for the 2015 WOTUS rule, which we all know was illegal and a federal overreach. So we now have a replacement that's been proposed. Yeah. It has to go through the federal rulemaking process. Okay, so we're going to be commenting and supporting that. Then at the end of that process, when it's finalized, the 2015 WOTUS rule will be dead, and we can claim victory over that.
That's good. So did we see some wins in 2018 in terms of federal environmental policy?
We saw some big wins in 2018, especially in something called CERCLA and EPCRA reporting, which was a reporting mandate that we saw come through the courts by virtue of activist litigation. And when we're talking about reporting, what are we reporting? It's actually poop smells from livestock. So odor emissions from ammonia and hydrogen sulfide, that's the smells from the poop in the urine.
Wow.
We were going to be required to have to report that to the government, but we were very successful, and NCBA led the effort in getting a bill passed through the Congress and signed by President Trump last March that exempted farms from CERCLA reporting. Wow. Now the other side of that ledger is EPCRA reporting. It's the same information going to your state and local governments, and EPA has proposed to exempt farms from that as well, and we are supporting that effort under this administration. So we have good news on that front, and all around on the regulatory reform front, we're seeing some big achievements coming from this administration that we're supportive of.
That's great news. And so let's talk 2019 for just a minute. Beyond WOTUS, what are some of the other environmental policy priorities?
We've got a number of environmental policy priorities. WOTUS is still going to continue to be a big one. Yeah. We're going to be helping to support this EPCRA exemption through the EPA. But beyond that, there's a number of other issues that are percolating through the court systems that NCBA is engaged in by filing amicus briefs in the Supreme Court and engaging in these different court battles. We're actually getting our policy priorities through that way as well. So not only are we lobbying Congress and the federal agencies, but we're fighting the courts to get our policy priorities achieved.
That's fantastic. So what can NCBA members do to help support you and your team in fighting these issues in Washington, D.C.?
Well, everything we do in Washington, D.C. is with your membership dollars of NCBA members. So if you think we're doing a good job and we're representing you, please become a member of NCBA. That's how we do our jobs. In addition to that, we need producers to be advocates, all right? We can do what we can in D.C. to influence these issues, but we always need producers to be the face of these issues, to come to D.C. to testify before Congress and to work with us to achieve our mutual goals. So be active and become an NCBA member.
Good. Keep up the good work for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you'd like to support the beef industry, why not become an NCBA member? It's easy to do. Just call 1-866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. And joining us now is the Chief of the United States Department of Agriculture, Natural Resources Conservation Service, Chief Matt Lohr. Chief Lohr, we are glad to have you this evening, and NRCS has been a long-time partner of this Environmental Stewardship Award program. Why is it so important for you all to support these kind of activities?
Well, Kevin, first of all, thank you so much for the partnership that we have between NCBA and NRCS. It's a natural partnership. I mean, our goal at NRCS is to really help farmers help the land, and by providing environmental resources and technical assistance, it really is a natural fit. Promoting and healthy grazing lands is so very, very important. And of course, your members and cattle producers, I mean, they're the ones that are tending to the pasture lands and the rangelands every single day. So it makes good sense to have a good fit with them.
Well, and you know, we hear so many great partnerships that exist on the local level with your local offices. And I'm curious, as you sit back and hear the stories this evening of these regional winners, what are some of your reactions?
Really, I was blown away to be able to watch the videos and meet the families in person. Phenomenal work that's being done all across the country. I think what stood out the most is their passion. These, for the most part, are multi-generational operations, and they really want to do what's best not only for today, but for the future generations. And so very, very inspiring stories, and this is what we need all of our customers and consumers all across the country to see. Very inspiring.
You work every day in a city that is far removed from many of these farms and ranches. What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions are that the general public has about how farmers and ranchers care for their resources?
Well, you're right. I think the American farmer and ranchers, they're really under attack from a lot of groups that don't understand what we do. Farmers and ranchers care deeply about their resources, protecting the water quality, improving soil health, clean air. I mean, that's what's the basis of their operation. And that's where NRCS comes in, to be able to provide that technical assistance and the financial resources to partner with them so they can implement those practices to be the best stewards that they can be.
One last question. As you think about farmers and ranchers, what would you like our viewers to know about the kinds of services that you offer and how they should engage with your local offices?
Absolutely. I think what I'd like people to know is that no matter the type of operation you have, no matter where you're located, NRCS is there to help, and we have a program for any need. We have 2,500 local offices all across the country, about 9,000 employees, boots on the ground, folks that are willing to come out, visit an operation, take a look, put a plan together, match it up with the appropriate environmental project, and make it a win-win for everyone. So certainly encourage them to reach out to the local USDA government center, find their local NRCS office, and put them in touch with one of the district conservationists.
Thank you so much for taking time out of a very busy schedule to make this a priority. We appreciate you being here. More importantly, we appreciate NRCS's long-term partnership in this program. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And we'll be back right after this.
Don't miss the 2019 NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's your opportunity to meet with congressional leaders and federal agency influencers to let them know where cattlemen and women stand on critical issues that impact the cattle business and our way of life. Make plans to be in Washington, D.C. April 2nd to the 4th, the 2019 NCBA Legislative Conference. Together, we can do more. Details at ncba.org.
Simmons Brothers Limousine in Amherst, South Dakota is a fourth-generation family operation that treats their cattle and their customers right.
Service is one of our number one criteria. We offer a first-year unconditional guarantee on the bulls.
Simmons Brothers breeds top-quality limousine bulls and females, focusing on the traits and the production that will put money in their customers' pockets.
They were commercial cattlemen before they came into the limousine business. They're cattle feeders. They really know the kind of genetics that it takes to be successful.
We're trying to bring a bull that our customer would be able to put on any set of cows, and those cows could earn a premium when he brings them to the sale barn.
You can depend on limousine genetics from Simmons Brothers. Don't miss their 39th annual production sale Thursday, February 21st. Call today to get a sale catalog and to find out more.
Adding muscle to your calves without sacrificing efficiency and quality can be a challenge. Reporter Matt Fleck visits a multi-generational family operation in South Dakota that turned to limousine cattle to do just that.
It's a rainy day in South Dakota, but the weather does nothing to dampen the enthusiasm of the Simmons family in caring for their Limousine cattle.
We started breeding Limousine cattle in 1970. We picked the Limousine breed because they were advertised as a carcass breed, and the reason the carcass breed interested us is because we always fed out all of our own cattle. So we thought we'd try them, and we were impressed with the cutability and the muscling and how they yielded.
I think the Limousine crossbred calf is a really good feeder calf. Really does well at the bunk, really does well in the yard. You get the best of both worlds when you combine English cattle with Limousine. You can market the marbling and the quality grade calves.
I'd say Limousine have proven to be some of the easiest calving cattle, and yet again they still have above average growth. The feed efficiency of the cattle and the carcass quality that the cattle bring to the table are second to none.
Seeing for themselves the value of Limousine genetics, the Simmons brothers took the next step and began to register their cattle, which led to their first production sale back in 1981.
We normally sell around 100 bulls and about 30 females, and our sale last Thursday of February, which is quite early because we calve most of our bulls in April, so they're not a year until April. But then we keep them and feed them, test them, semen test them and everything, and deliver them in end of April, 1st of May.
Breed improvement is important to the team at Simmons Brothers, and they work hard to breed bulls that will deliver bottom-line value for their customers.
Simmons Brothers Limousine genetics, I think, can bring to any commercial cattleman a very well-balanced genetic package. They've raised the cattle for predictable calving ease, and I think they've selected to breed for optimums instead of maximums. But the cattle are very balanced. They're going to have above average growth, maternal ability, carcass ability.
We're trying to bring a bull that our customer would be able to put on any set of cows, and those calves could earn a premium when he brings them to the sale barn. We want calves that when they come in, they're sound, they're ready to eat, they're ready to go, they're growthy, they're a complete calf that is in demand.
Because the Simmons family wants their customers to be satisfied with the animals and the genetics they sell, they offer an unconditional guarantee on their bulls.
As much as I like the cattle, I'd say one of the reasons people keep coming back here year after year after year is that the cattle do what they say that they're going to do, but that the Simmons guarantee is iron proof. The Simmons brothers stand behind their cattle 100%.
All a guarantee is a guarantee for one breeding season. We want your experience to be good. We want you to not have any troubles. If you have a problem, we replace the bull or we give sale credit back.
We've always prided ourselves in personal customer service with honesty and integrity. Our word is our bond, and that's what we are as a family.
From Simmons Brothers Limousine in South Dakota, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
This year, the Simmons Brothers sale will be February 21st at 1 p.m. Central. To see their sale offerings and request a catalog, you can give them a call at these numbers. You can also watch the sale and bid online at dvauction.com. Still ahead, we'll check in with our good friend Baxter Black. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're connected with the beef cattle business, then you should like the NCBA page on Facebook. The NCBA Facebook page shares photos, news, and valuable information about the beef cattle industry. You can also follow the NCBA Twitter feed at Beef USA. So stay in touch with NCBA on Facebook and Twitter.
When a new calf hits the ground, his clock starts ticking. A belly full of colostrum gives him his best odds, but if he doesn't get any, his time starts running out. That's when you grab a bag of Oxford Ag Colostrum in their patented feeding system. Fill them with warm water, shake it to mix, feed it with a tube or nipple, and you are done. No bucket, no bottle, no mess, and right on time. Get yours at oxfordag.com. Costs less than a dead calf.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
The number of rural food animal veterinarians is diminishing rapidly nationwide, so if you have one, take care of him or her. I read an article recently by a rural DVM entitled, "Before You Call Your Vet." I'll try and clear up any confusion you might have. Suggestion number 1, if you have no intention of paying for the vet's services, do not call. On the surface, this sounds self-explanatory. But to be more specific, it definitely includes the spotted owl that flew into your picture window, the neighbor's dog that you hit with a truck trying to drive him off your sheep, and the national park buffalo that was wounded by a deer hunter in your backyard. Suggestion number 2, do not call your veterinarian if what you want is illegal. Say you've been quarantined by the Federal Livestock Department for brucellosis or tuberculosis, BSE, scabies, having poor facilities, or misplacing your last vet bill. Suggestion number 3, always capture and identify the animal in question before calling the doctor. Capture means in something smaller than 40 acres. She's the one over by the scrub oak, Doc. The one just left of the red cow. Or is that the mule? Anyway, she's the solid black one. No, wait. Phil, which cow did you say had the lump jaw? Well, the doctor's article included many more useful tips on how to better use your rural veterinarian, but it all boiled down to this. Take care of your local cow vet. Treat him like visiting royalty. Pay him like you do your bookie. Remember his birthday. Share your pheasant, quail, sweet corn, homemade cookies, and 4-H pig sausage with him. And it's always nice to offer to co-sign his note for his house, or his car, or his bass boat. Because remember, he can always desert you for a comfortable cat and dog practice in some place like Orlando. Communication is important. A rancher called to say that his bull had broken his leg, and I said, well, you probably better shoot him. Well, he called back later to say that now he had a bull with a broken leg and a bullet wound. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We'll have more right after this.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that's where the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show will be in 2020. It's the biggest convention just for cattle producers in San Antonio, a city with an amazing history that's packed with great food and fun. You can't miss it. So make plans now for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show in San Antonio, February 5th to the 7th. Find out more at ncba.org.
Welcome back to Cattlemen. You'll never find a lack of patriotism at the Cattle Industry Convention, and each year there's a contest sponsored by our friends at Norbrook to choose a person to sing the national anthem. Russell Nemitz introduces us to this year's winner.
Well, with us now is Carrie Wheeler, the 2019 National Anthem winner for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and, of course, the Cattle Industry Convention and the NCBA Trade Show. And, Carrie, you're from Biggs, California. And first of all, we want to say thank you to our wonderful sponsors, Norbrook, who have sponsored this competition for 5 years in a row. Talk about what it's like to be this year's National Anthem Award winner.
Oh, my gosh, dream come true. This is a trip of a lifetime. I am so grateful to Norbrook. I'm grateful to NCBA. They have treated me beyond like a queen I could ever expect. It has been just probably one of the biggest highlights of my life, of course, besides having my children. And I guess I should mention my husband. But this has been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you folks do back there in California and how it all ties into the cattle industry convention.
Thank you. Well, my children are fifth-generation ranchers. Our ranch has been in our family for over 115 years. It is our main industry. I also have a feed and ranch supply store as well. And so beef, cattle, the whole industry has been in our family for forever and ever. Our family's been very active within the CCA, California Cattlemen's Association. And right now we are a cow-calf operation and actually just got in a little bit of the Wagyu beef as well, too.
Well, nice. So you're very diversified, which is very important in today's industry. And I also wanted to let folks at home know this year's competition kind of opened up the whole age restriction. So you don't just have to be one of the younger members of the cattle industry. You can be, of all ages like Carrie and I. And how fun is that to be able to now open this up so all of us can participate?
Yeah, and I appreciate you not saying senior citizen. But anyway, it has been a real joy. I have always sang the national anthem. I always feel like it's been my patriotic duty. And to have this opportunity for the contest to have been open to all ages has just been, like I said, unbelievably wonderful.
Well, it's a very special song in a lot of different rights. And what was it like to come out during this opening general session, thousands of cattlemen and women out there, and get to sing America's song?
Like I said, I just truly believe this is my patriotic duty, but more importantly, something I have never experienced on such a grand stage ever, and it's just been unbelievably the most fantastic experience I've ever had.
Well, thanks for signing up for the contest, and more importantly, congratulations on being this year's National Anthem Award winner and having the chance to join us here in New Orleans for the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. Again, Carrie Wheeler from Biggs, California. With that, we'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.